So let's move on to the 2018 Viognier.
Okay.
So, you know, the Viognier and the Sauvignon Blanc, we really feel like those are two white varieties that do exceptionally well in the Rogue Valley. And when we say that, it's mainly because they do well every year, year in, year out. Do they show vintage variation? Yes. Do they ripen consistently? Yes. Do they make delicious wine consistently? Yes. And when we get those things lined up to where, you know, we don't have to struggle farming the fruit, and the vines do things a lot on their own, that's when we think we've really got a good site variety climate match. And Sauvignon Blanc and Viognier really fit that mold. We don't really do a lot to the Sauvignon Blanc in the vineyard. It doesn't get hedged very often. Rarely do we have to thin the fruit. You know, it naturally crops around 3.5 to 4 tons an acre, and for our spacing, that's ideal. It ripens consistently, and we can get ripe flavors at relatively lower bricks compared to a lot of other sites in the valley and in Oregon. And it just makes these wines that have this lusciousness of tropical fruit with the perfume, the rose petal, honeysuckle kind of perfume that's so typical of Viognier. And this one is all tank fermented, so it really preserves the crispness and the freshness. And then you have a vintage like 2018 where the fruit is just intensely flavored, intensely aromatic. It just makes a lovely wine, it really does.
I'm really getting that perfumey, really smooth tongue feel. It's amazing. It's got a nice acid to it, but it's bigger and bolder on the smoothness all the way across the palate. It's really a nice glass of wine.
Thank you.
What people tend to, what in the Northwest.
In Oregon, and one thing about our site here at 2Hawk that I think makes it exceptional. You can get these kinds of aromas and flavors in Viognier in a lot of places, but in a lot of places, you have to wait for them to get so ripe that you end up with mid 14s to low 15s in alcohol. And we're able to get this level of ripeness and this intensity and this perfume quality at very moderate alcohol levels here, which I think is a real testament to not only the talent that Ross has in the vineyard farming the fruit, but also to how well matched this variety is to our site.
What I really noticed, most of the Viogniers in the Northwest, at least Washington and Northern Oregon, are sweet because they stopped that fermentation, and it eliminates that really nice, smooth, soft palate feel all the way back.
Yeah, a lot of times people will do that to try to cover up a little bit of the bitterness that comes into the finish, or even a little bit of the alcohol that tends to be a little bit more prevalent, a little bit higher alcohol levels. You can balance that alcohol out by leaving a little bit of sweetness in there. Unfortunately, we don't really have that issue with our Viognier. It gets ripe at moderate sugar levels. This wine is less than 14% alcohol. I want to say it's 13.7 or 13.8.
Yeah.
You know,
and what's nice, this is what really opened my eyes. I've been to Medford many times and played bocce at your winery, but I had never tried your Viognier until I read the Forbes 500 article on Southern Oregon Viogniers. This is a wonderful glass of wine.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, that Forbes article was really nice. And we do, you know, you mentioned the Forbes article, you know, that reviewed both our the classic series Viognier that's all tank fermented, but we also do a Viognier that's kind of our homage to the classic Viogniers, the benchmark Viogniers of Condrieu and the Northern Rhone. And in that wine, we take our Viognier and ferment it 100% in barrel. It spends about 11 to 12 months in oak, and then followed by 6 months in stainless steel prior to bottling. And that is a very different take on Viognier. You still get the floral perfume part of everything, but you get so much more structure and density on the palate. And again, you know, no commercial yeast used in the winery. So this is a very transparent expression of Viognier grown at the 2Hawk Vineyard here in Medford.
Okay, well, very good.